talk about security CTF. So just a little bit about us. So we're from the Information and Systems Security Society, which is the cybersecurity organization at UT. We're under the CS department, but we're open to all majors. We have people also in like government, econ, informatics in our org, so anyone can join. So just a little bit of context about this. We do also have a CTF going on right now. You can join at ctf.iiss.io, and it runs until 7 p.m. So this will hopefully get you a little bit of a head start to get to work on that CTF. So a little bit about security. In the real world, you'll see two kind of sides. They're usually called blue teaming and red teaming. Blue teaming is kind of like the defensive side. So it's like things like building secure software, things like what happens after an incident. We'll get more into that later. Red teaming is like what you think about when you think about like a cool hacker, like someone getting into a system, things you see in the movie.
Yeah, the point of red teaming is to test the effectiveness of your blue team.
So more on blue teaming. So like I said, it's about defending your systems. For example, this is actually the field that I'm most interested in. So incident response, for example, is where if a threat actor gets into an organization and they do things like ransomware, they exfiltrate your data. Like if you've heard about the recent 23andMe leaks, the incident responders are the people who go in after an incident and they basically figure out who the heck got in, what did they do, when they did it, and things like that. And yeah, it's basically like kind of damage control. On the opposite hand, we have red teaming. This is the offensive side of security, basically where you're legally paid to hack into people's systems to find out like how vulnerable they are. So there's things like red teaming and pen testing. So red teaming is basically kind of like you're simulating in a threat actor and you're trying to find their crown jewels, which is like known as the things that the threat actors want from business, such as your information, your personal identifiable information, or like money. And pen testing is where you're really going in and finding the vulnerabilities. And how it works is there's an internal, external, and web application pen test. And basically you try to break in, and the worst part about it is you do have to write a report. So there are writing that comes into security. So next, why should you do security? So you can write secure code for your company. It gives you more power to be more secure. You always hear about people's Instagram account being hacked, people's information being stolen, people's identities being stolen, things like that. So just by being aware of how you can be more secure, you protect yourself and your family from getting hacked by these bad guys. And security is really fun. You do cool stuff, and the community is awesome. If you meet anyone, then everyone's really friendly, and they do really cool things. So more on CTFs. So CTFs are also known as capture the flags. These are the cybersecurity competitions. Like if you know about competitive programming, those are like the coding competitions. This is kind of like the equivalent. The way these works is you have a bunch of challenges, and each of them are a bite-sized approach to security. So they won't train you on everything, but they'll basically help you focus in on one particular exploit, for example, and really help you hone in on individual parts of security. And the way it works is you have a team. You can do individual, but most of the time they're team-based challenges where you solve challenges by finding a flag, and you get points from that. And basically how the way it works is the people with the most points wins. So Daniel, I'll just leave the rest of you.
Yeah, all right. So basically what we have on our CTF website, which just a reminder is ctf.iiss.io, we have a challenges page, which has all the challenges on it, and you can click on them and decide which ones to do. There's a leaderboard which shows who's winning, and there's also going to be rules. Rules are important to take into account because some competitions will have something that's like, oh yeah, you can't brute force any of the challenges except this one, or stuff like that. They're usually divided into categories based on the topic, and we'll talk more about what topics you'll sometimes see. And they have a point value associated with the difficulty. Some additional things you'll see is sometimes they have dynamic scoring where you get more points the fewer people solve the challenge. And also they might give you a bonus if you're the first person to solve it. But our CTF is just a static CTF. All the challenges have predefined point values. Yep, that's how you do them. when you get the flag, it looks like a string, and most CTFs will have their own identifier at the beginning of the string. Ours is UT flag, except for the one challenge where I messed it up. And if you are able to crack the challenge and hit the flag, then you get points. So these are the categories that we have. I'm not going to read them out because I'm going to go over each one in detail. The first challenge that you'll see often is cryptography. Often what happens is you might have to implement a system for doing cryptography, or you might have to crack somebody else's bad cryptography. And I think that's what the majority of our challenges are, is we have bad cryptography and your job is to crack it. Some tools that you might use with that: SageMath is a computer algebra system, which you can use for doing fancy math if the problem involves fancy crypto math. And then CyberChef is just a tool for composing operations. So you could be like, oh, base64 decode and then Caesar cipher or whatever. No worries if you don't know what that means. But basically, CyberChef is just a really nice GUI tool for doing multiple operations easily.
And really quick, cryptography is basically like if you see a scrambled bunch of text, you're trying to make it readable. And if you have something readable, try to make it scrambled up. So if you think about like ciphers, codes, like Morse code is actually a really simple example, right? You're basically scrambling something or undoing a scramble.
Next we have forensics. In forensics, there's basically two possibilities. You have a file with something hidden in it, and your job is to figure out what that thing is, or you're trying to like simulate an incident responsive exercise, trying to figure out what happened. So sometimes you'll see forensics problems with logs or network captures, and you're supposed to look through those. So yeah, you might have to fix broken files. There's a lot of different things that you could see in this category. Forensics problems are often not that difficult if you know what tool to use. Some of the common tools that you might want to use to get started, but maybe not the ones that you'll use to solve the problem in the end, are XXD, which is just a tool for doing hex dumps. Any other hex editor will work too. Binwalk is, or sorry, I'll do file first. File is a command that tells you what type of file something is. And the way it does that is by looking inside the file and looking for data structures that identify what the file is. Binwalk is like file, except it also checks everywhere in the file, not just the beginning. So if you have files within files, Binwalk will find those. The web category is web applications. Often we're simulating an issue with a web application where you break into the administrator's account or steal information from the server. And there's a very wide range of difficulty for web. The developer tools in your browser are really good for this. Firefox in particular has one that even lets you edit and resend network requests without even having to break out Burp Suite. Burp Suite is like browser tools, but much more powerful, and you can intercept requests in real time and modify them and stuff like that. Networking is usually just dealing with packet captures, yeah, it's packet captures. If you're trying to like perform a network connection, then a simple way to do that is Netcat. It does text, doesn't do any fancy protocols. And Wireshark is really good at decoding network requests from packet captures. And Wireshark supports a lot of protocols, more than most other software. And so if you're trying to deal with something esoteric, then Wireshark might be the thing to look at. Reverse engineering, you're given a compiled program like the result of a C compiler, and your job is to figure out what it does. Usually what you're given is some kind of program that you give it a flag and it tells you whether or not the flag is correct, and it's your job to find out what the flag is just from that information. Some great tools for this are Ghidra, which is free, made by the NSA, and it has a really nice decompiler. It's very effective. IDA is not free, but it has an even nicer decompiler. And then Cutter is a tool that's a little bit more native than Ghidra, but it just piggybacks off the Ghidra decompiler, so you'll get a kind of more first-class experience with Ghidra.
Kind of like a little metaphor, if you think about food, maybe like you have Coca-Cola's secret recipe and you're trying to figure out what ingredients are inside. That's kind of like reverse engineering, but in a food metaphor.
We we have binary exploitation, which is where it's a lot like reversing. In fact, you'll probably be using some of the reversing tools, but now you're trying to hack into the binary that's running remotely. So these are generally kind of difficult. If you want to learn this, we do have some challenges that are great for learning this on our site Forever CTF, which is at forever.ioss.io, and that's how I learned binary exploitation, so I can vouch for it. It's very good. Tools that you're using for this are going to be all the reversing tools, just as they're all very helpful, plus GDB for testing your stuff at runtime, Jeff, which is a GDB distribution that has like fancy stuff, and also probably PwnTools, which is a Python package that has functions built in to help you do a lot of common tests in binary exploitation. I recommend looking at their documentation if you're learning binary exploitation, because they have some pretty useful stuff in there, although it's not the best organized documentation I've ever seen. Finally, we have miscellaneous. This is the challenge that this is the category that we dump challenges that don't really fit any other categories into. Sometimes you'll see OSINT challenges here, which is where you try to gather data on people. Esoteric challenges, esoteric challenges, but also challenges specifically using esoteric programming languages. So like, BF, that sort of thing. And sometimes we have geodeser type challenges too. We have one of those on our current CTF.
Finding Garrett, we should do it.
And that's the main part of the presentation, but we're gonna stick around here until 6 and answer questions about the CTF if you have any.
Yeah, so for some
Until 7, sorry, I meant to say until 7.
And so we went through this kind of quick, so if you didn't understand some of the things on the slides, that's okay. It's just a really brief introduction. Shameless plug, we do have talks with our org that go over some of these topics more in depth throughout the school year. So we have them Tuesdays 5 to 7, but beginner talks are usually 5 to 6.
If you're a UT student, you can come to those, and if you're not a UT student, then you can look at them on our YouTube channel.
If they're recorded, they're not.
Yeah, some of them are recorded.
For example, our next one's going to be next Tuesday about forensics. So if you're interested in learning more in depth, those will break it down for you. This is kind of just like a little dip your toes into the water kind of thing. And yeah, if you have any questions, we're always here to chill and have fun.